Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Shanab Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Akwaf that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And this is for the Critical Race Historical Facts channel. And continuing with the Maccabean Revolt, Anti Hellenic Rebellion in Judea documentary. And to point out the truths and the lies that this guy is telling. All this history is coming straight out of the Apocrypha, which validates the Bible, which validates the Bible as being the most accurate history book ever written. Some of this information can also be found in the Josephus. And I noticed that there's a portion that talks about John Hyrcanus and when the Edomites were forced to become Jewish. Matter of fact, let's show that evidence now. This is from who is Esau Edom. And let's wait for that to focus. There it goes. It says, John Hyrcanus conquered the whole of Edom and undertook the forced conversion of its inhabitants to Judaism. So there was no such thing as Judaism. It was the law, statutes, and commandments. Judaism was started with Jewish people. So these were Edomites who were following, the law, statutes, commandment, and the section became Jewish people. See? So it wasn't called Judaism. The Bible, Moses didn't come down from the mountain and give people Judaism. You see that 7-candle, 8-candle menorah? That's Judaism. Now you're going to see them lie and transgress because it's going to switch to a 7-candle. Which is it? Because the Bible clearly tells you that in the midst of the 7 candlesticks. Let's read that real quick before we let this play. And as a matter of fact, the history of that incident is found in 1 Maccabees, the 15th chapter, around the 33rd verse. I'm going to grab that too, just to prove that point. But let's go ahead and get this revelation. Because we're just going to expose their lies. We're breaking down this video. All right? Since so that's what Esau does. He makes truth with lies. And that's been the secret of his way of staying in power. This is Revelations 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and everyone shall see. Nope, that's not what I wanted to read. Yeah, Revelation 1:12. And I turned to see the voice which spake to me, and I saw 7 golden candlesticks. All right, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one unlike to the Son of Man, clothed in a garment down to the foot, and girded about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. He had white woolly hair like my beard, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire, and his feet like unto the fine brass, bronze, which is brown, as if they had burnt in a furnace. And his voice was the sound of many waters. Judah got that loud, deep voice, man. Even their women are loud. Okay? So the Lord was a very dark-skinned man with woolly hair. All right? And now let's go to 1 Maccabees, the 15th chapter and the 33rd verse, which is basically when John Hyrcanus, the grandson of Simon of Maccabees, conquered the Edomites, a section of the Edomites, and made them to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. And therefore, there came a group of humanity among the Edomites to refer to themselves as Jewish. He keeps saying Jewish as if that was a thing. No, the Israelites didn't call themselves Jewish. The tribe of Zebulun, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Gad, the tribe, the tribe of Issachar didn't refer to themselves as Jewish. They referred to themselves by their tribal names or as Hebrews. So this whole Jewish thing, that's a new age lie. All right. But this is 1 Maccabees 15:33. And it reads, Then answered Simon and said unto him, We have neither taken other men's land, nor holding that which appertaineth to others, but the inheritance of our fathers, which our enemies had wrongfully in possession a certain time. So these Edomites took over the temples as well, and they had possession of, as we're gonna read, and Jason, a sellout, whose name was Joshua. His name was actually Yahushua. Can you believe that? Who was a sellout, actually helped that to happen. So without any further ado, we're at the 3rd minute and the 24th second. We're gonna let it play to about the 6-minute mark, roughly, and then I'm gonna go into some scriptures, and basically, I'm gonna let it play and interject with some scriptures to make clarification exactly where he's lying, all right, and when he's telling the truth. So let's let it play.
In 198 BC, Antiochus III had finally expelled the Ptolemies out of Judea, putting the region firmly under the suzerainty of the Seleucid Empire. He lowered taxes and affirmed the Jewish people's freedom to live by their own faith and laws, and for now, Judea was content. Throughout world history, we often see subject peoples of a multi-ethnic empire willingly adopt the language and customs of said empire's rulers in an attempt to improve social mobility, so many Jewish peoples began to practice the Greek culture of their suzerains. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, was perpetuated mainly by the upper strata of Jewish society, namely the wealthy priests, merchants, and aristocrats in urban Jerusalem.
Now you saw right there in that moment, that was actually a 7-stick candlestick right there. All right. Let's go back a little bit. So they went from an 8 to a 7. You see the confusion that they create?
Social mobility.
Let's take that back.
So many Jewish peoples began to practice the Greek culture of their suzerains. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, was perpetuated mainly by the upper strata of Jewish society, namely...
Now see, in Christianism, the modern church, they ignore this Hellenization period of the Israelites, because this is how they go from there's no difference between either Greek nor Jew, and the problem with that is that these Jews that they were saying there was no difference between, and these Greeks that they were saying no difference between, they were all ethnically Israelites, and they leave that portion out, and they make you to believe that it's talking about Edomite Greeks and other heathens that were mixed in, and it was not. It was talking about the Hellenization of the people of the Israelites and the other heathens too, but mainly of the Israelites during this captivity. This is 1 Maccabees 6:6, and it reads, Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient feast or fast, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. So you weren't allowed to call yourself, an Israelite, all right? To be of the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, or Levi, because those are the 3 tribes that were in the midst of this at this time, all right? And 400 years of that, and then the Lord shows up, and all of a sudden we get our heritage back, and there were those who knew who we were, who struggled to hold on to our heritage, but then the majority of our people were completely Hellenized, willfully, as we're about to read.
The wealthy priests, merchants, and aristocrats in urban Jerusalem. The Hellenization process was expedited in 175 BC, when the culturally traditionalist high priest, Ananias III, was deposed by his Philhellene brother Joshua, better known by his Greek name, Jason. Jason would go on to wield his power as high priest to begin transforming Jerusalem into a classically Greek city.
You see that? And these were 2 Israelite men. Let's go to 2 Maccabees 4, and I'm going to go read from about 7 to 15. And it reads, but after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored to underhand to be the high priest. All right, so just like you have people who go to like Vocab Malone, all right, who go to these monasteries and go to these Christian schools to learn this the false Christianism doctrine of universalism, and that God loves everybody, and the Bible never said that. All right, to teach that the laws and statutes are done away with. You can eat whatever you want. They don't come against the alphabet lifestyles or anything. That they basically the Christianism also is very PC and offended and clearly offended at the word of God. All right, but as we continue, verse 8, promising unto the king by intercession 303 score talents of silver and another revenue of 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise for the training up of the youth in the fashion of the heathen. All right. And to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. You see? And then he brought heathen in, this bastard. All right. It says, and when the king had granted, he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. All right, that's why it says there's no difference between neither Jew nor Greek when Paul was saying that. And they leave these very important details in this time period of history out. And even in this book, Who is Esau Edom, when we read that portion about the evidence of John Hyrcanus, or one of the evidences, it mentioned the source. Hold on, let's go back to it. It mentioned the source as, let's see if it'll focus again. It mentioned the source as a Josephus. All right. Section 13, 9 through 1 in the Josephus. It didn't mention the Apocrypha. Why? Because the Apocrypha reveals that the Edomite race, the so-called white people, were indeed these Greeks and these Romans. And they're the ones that did these things to Judea, which still affect them to this day. All right. And then even went on to claim the nationality and the heritage of the Israelites, of the so-called Jew, Benjamin and Levi, to this day. Okay. Let me go back to it. Verse 11. And this is 2 Maccabees 4 and 11. And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Ptolemaeus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid, he took away, and putting down the government which were according to the law, he brought up a new custom against the law. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, all right, and brought the chief young men under the subjection and made them wear a hat. That's where you get the small hatters. This is why Jewish people, because Jewish people keep a lot of Greek customs, covering up the bald face. Many of them don't wear beards, and then they wear the yarmulke, or the small hat, on their head. Okay, and what do they do when they have these big, the big sports arenas, when the new athletes are coming on to sell off teams? Everybody's wearing a hat. So that's that Greekish thing still around today. As a matter of fact, the baseball hat, the hat that the football, basketball players, whatever it wear, representing their teams, if you took away the bill, the bill off the hat, it's the same hat that the Jewish people wear. All right, who are basically posers. Okay. Continuing, it says, and putting down the governments, And, yeah, who went ambassador to Rome for amnesty and aid. He took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law. He brought up new customs against the law. So it's against the law to wear a hat, to cover your head when you're prophesying, when you're praying. Okay? And what do? They rock back and forth against the wall of Fort Antonia, which they call the Wailing Wall. They had nothing to do with the temple. All right, that was Fort Antonia, a Roman stronghold for Roman soldiers, by the way. And they cover their heads and they rock back and forth. They wear a yarmulke and they rock back and forth. When the Bible just said it's against the law to cover your head. All right. And for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under subjection, and made them wear a hat. Now such is the height of the Greek fashions, and increased the heathenish manners throughout the exceeding profaneness of Jason and that ungodly wretch, and no high priest. So he was no high priest, man. He was an ungodly wretch, man. Okay. Let me go to 2 Maccabees 5 and verses 3 through 7. It says, and the troops of the horsemen in array, encountering and running one against another, and shaking of the shields, and a multitude of pikes, and drawing swords, and casting darts, and glittering and golden ornaments, and all harmless and harmless of all sorts. Wherefore every man prayed that the apparition might turn to good. Now when there were gone forth a false rumor as through Antiochus had been dead, Jason took at least 1,000 men and suddenly made an assault upon the city. And they that were upon the walls being put back, in the city at length taken, Menelaus fled into the council. But Jason slew his own citizens without mercy, not considering that to get the day of them of his own nation would be most unhappy day for him, but thinking that he had been his enemies and now his countrymen whom he had conquered. So this man was murdering and killing his own people, all in the name of Esau, Edom, in the Greekish fashion, man. And this history is right here in the Apocrypha, the same book that your last president, DJ Trump, they read scriptures from the Apocrypha during his inauguration, also further proving its authenticity. Okay? Let's let this man lie some more, this kings and generals guy.
By building a gymnasium and an ephebium, essentially community centers for Greek education and learning. He also sent Jewish athletes to compete in a mimicry of the Olympic Games hosted by the king in Tyre. There he offered a sacrificial tribute to the Greek demigod Hercules, to whom the games were dedicated. Perhaps his most radical policy was to allow non-Jews in Jerusalem to set idols of their gods within the holy temple itself. The fact that the high priest was openly tolerating and even promoting the polytheistic gods was deeply disturbing to many Jews who clung to their monotheist faith.
All right, they clung to the law, statutes, and commandments, man. They didn't have a religion. All right, the religion is a Greek word, man-made. All right, this is 2 Maccabees 5, 1 through 5, and it reads, about the same time Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt, and then it happened that through all the city, for the space almost 40 days, that there were seen horsemen running in the air, of cloth of gold and armed with lances, and like a band of soldiers. Basically, those were chariots that they saw. And the troops and the horsemen in array, encountering the running one against another, and shaking the shields, and a multitude of pikes and swords and glittering ornaments. Oh, I just read that, Salakia. And the glittering darts and the ornaments and the harmless of sorts. And see, and then they prayed that it went away. But what did Jason do? Jason came in behind and then slew his own people, man. All right. But prophecy had to be fulfilled. You know, this we were being punished for our wickedness, and this was a part of it, because it tells you it already given a prophecy. I think it's in 2nd Ezra 7 and 28 that the Lord would come within 400 years. So we had another 400 years to endure this, and this was a part of our punishment for what we had done. All right. 7 and 28. Right, and it reads, "For my son Yahushai shall be revealed with those that be with him, and they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years." So we have to endure 400 years of this Greekish bullshit after that apparition, after those chariots were seen in the sky, man. Right, and the Lord's going to come the same way in chariots. All right, so when they're teaching the Bible, they like to leave this history out. Okay, for example, it's also found in the Apocrypha that the Spartans that were in Greek were actually Israelites. They were of the stock of Abraham. So that will open up a can of worms that no one wants to talk about. Absolutely no one. Okay? As a matter of fact, let's go to that real quick. Let's go to 1 Maccabees 12 and 21. And it reads, "It is found in the writings that the Lacedaemonians and the Jews are brethren, and they are the stock of Abraham." All right. So that shield with the V on it, I'll draw the symbol. I could run up front and grab but the Spartans all carried a shield, and it had this symbol on it right here. All right. They carried a shield that had that symbol on it. All right. However, no matter what angle they had that symbol on it. That's the shield of the Lacedaemonians. That was the sign of the Spartans. The Spartans were Israelites. All right. So now they have to explain that. And see, they don't want to talk about that, because if you talk about that, then you have to acknowledge the validity of the Apocrypha. And the Apocrypha identifies that the white people today are indeed the Romans and the Greeks, and the sons of Alexander. And Alexander's he and his bloodline go back to Amalek. All right. And Amalek is a grandson of Esau, Edom. All right. As a matter of fact, let's get a precept to that. Let's get the book of Acts to 1 Maccabees 12 and 21. Let's get the book of Acts 13 and 26. And it reads, "Men and brethren, children of the stock of Abraham, and whosoever among you fear of God, to you is the word of this salvation sent." And to whomsoever, meaning the other Israelites that are scattered. Point blank, period. Not if you are Edomite or you're Ammonite and you believe. That's a Christianism lie. Matter of fact, let's go to Acts. If we're in Acts, let's go to Acts 6 and 1, and we'll close this one out. And in Acts 6 and 1, and it reads, "And in those days, when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration." When you look that word Grecian up, that word there is Hellenist. Those were people who have been Hellenized. The Hellenista or the Hellenists, which were Greek-speaking Jews, Greek-speaking Judeans, to be said properly. All right. So this guy of Generals and Kings. Once again, he's giving you real history, but he's giving you that false Edomite narrative. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem, Rakak, Wadash, Wa Abba, Kwam Yasharallah.